everyone, welcome to the launch of RP Inspired Photography. I'm so happy and excited that you guys could all stop by and check out and see what this is all about and why I'm launching this channel and brand to begin with. My name is Brian. I will be your host from now until this channel goes away, and that could be tomorrow. Anyway, there's a couple of things I want to cover, pardon me, in explaining what this is all about. There's a little bit about me. There's photography, there's inspiration, and then there's the mission as to why I'm doing this. And we'll start with a little bit about me. The RP in RP Inspired Photography stands for retinitis pigmentosa, which is a visual retinal degenerative disorder, disease, however you want to call it. And I have it. I am legally blind because of it. And I was diagnosed at the age of 14. And at that time, they said I might be 65 before I were to lose all my vision. I'm 58 now. So, yeah, they might be right. They might not. Some people go, depending on the genetic strain, which there are many, that you can inherit. And no, this isn't something that you can rub up against somebody, give them a peck on the cheek, and wind up catching it. It's not that type of happy or unhappy disease. So, you don't have to be afraid of me if you ever meet me. Well, maybe not for that reason. Anyway, I digress. Because I was diagnosed at the age of 14, I didn't grasp what the heck that meant. And I wasn't going to, whatever this piggy thing was that were on my retinas or causing me not being able to see at night and see the stars like everybody else, I wasn't going to let it define who I wanted to be and who I was. So I always liked working with wood, and I always loved space. So when I was younger, people would look up and see all the stars, and I'd be like, yeah, there's probably 25, 30 maybe, and they're seeing thousands or hundreds of thousands, depending. I grew up in northern Minnesota, about 200 miles north of here. I currently live about 30 miles northwest of the Minneapolis, St. Paul metro area here in Minnesota. And I always watched, sci-fi type stuff. And you see pictures on TV and in magazines of what the stars look like in various configurations. And I always wondered if that was reality or was that Hollywood. And so I would ask my wife or friends or family members, is that what you guys see or not see? And sometimes I'd say yes, and sometimes I'd giggle and go, yeah, no. So, being a stargazer and love of space, Star Wars was obviously my favorite thing. Sorry, Trekkies. I can't go there. Anyway, I digress again. I moved through life. I decided to become a carpenter, and one of the things that happens with RP is that you lose your peripheral vision like this. So when I look at you, I'm looking at a little tiny screen. It's probably that wide by about like that, because I'm doing this on a video camera. And I can see the video camera and maybe a little bit around it. And that's about it. If I were to sit 6 feet from you, I'd probably see from about here to about here to about here of you. That's all I would see. So as a carpenter, you can see that would be an issue. Young man wise up as he grows up. And I decided that probably not a great career for someone with that kind of a problem. So I went to work in a warehouse, which was okay, not great, but at that time in my life, I still could see way out here. So it wasn't that bad. And I worked my way through that, became a warehouse manager, blah, blah, blah. And as I got older, of course, it starts doing this number and what have you. And I finally got to the point where the company I was working for was laying off a bunch of people, and I happened to be one of the victims. And I decided, you know what? I can retire. I have the technology. You can rebuild me as a retiree. Here I am. That was in 2017 at the age of 52. So that brings us to that behind us. Photography. Because I couldn't see the stars, I'd always been a kind of photography buff. I got my first camera as a graduation present from high school in 1982. It was a Canon AE1. And film for a teenage kid was rather expensive. You couldn't do like you do now. You just point and shoot, point, shoot, point. Oh, I don't like that one. Wipe that one out and just keep going. You screw up a picture, you're toast. So I kind of did this same thing that everybody did. You know, I played with my camera. I took it on trips, blah, blah, blah. But I never really dove into what that camera could do for me until I retired. Now, a couple of years ago, I went on a trip up the North Shore of Lake Superior, about 3 hours from here. And we had had major forest fires raging offshore. And the smoke was wafting down along the shore. And you could almost taste it in the air. So I knew it was a full moon while we were up there. So my love for space and planets and what have you drugged me out to the beach, and I set up my camera, and I sat there and I waited. I wanted to see, as you all know, when the moon comes up, it's bigger than what it is when it's all the way up. And it's orange and all these funky colors and gorgeous. I wanted to see what the smoke would do to it. So as I was waiting, off to my right, west towards Duluth and Superior. Duluth is in Minnesota, Superior is in Wisconsin, and it's the Twin Ports, for those of you that may not know. So I pointed my camera in that direction, and there was a pine tree off to my right that was right hugged up against the shore. And the sun was setting, and there were some gorgeous pictures to be had of the sunset on the clouds out over the lake and reflecting off the water. So I started taking pictures of that, and as the sun keeps going down, the moon wasn't going to come up until it was almost dark. So as I was taking pictures in the dark, this was in August, I took a shot next to that pine tree, and I noticed this haze. It kind of went up, arced out over the lake to the left. And when I looked in the back of my viewfinder on my camera on the LCD screen, I'm like, what is that? Was it the cloud? Was it the smoke? I had no idea. So I went back to our cabin at the resort we were staying at, and I hooked my camera up to my laptop, and with the rudimentary editing software that comes with Windows, I enhanced it. And what, to my amazement, did I discover? I had just taken my first picture of the Milky Way. For me, that was as life-altering as finding out I was going to go blind someday. I actually caught something that there was no way I was ever going to see with the naked eye anywhere on the planet. And it was my doing. I did it myself. I didn't see it in a book. I didn't see it in a movie. It was my window and vessel into space. I dove down a rabbit hole of photography and astrophotography that had me spinning for months. But as I was going down that road, I started getting into how to take good compositions, how to take pictures of meaning. And as a result of that, and the great old university of YouTube, you can find just about anything you need to know. I started learning how and what I needed to do to take better astrophotography. Now, because of my vision, I don't drive. So I'm dependent on my wife to get me around. So when the Milky Way is up, it's got a season and it runs from like February through October. When I first start seeing the core up here, it's probably, yeah, middle of February. It starts to come up above the horizon so you can get the core. You can see the Milky Way any time of year, but the core doesn't come up until then. But at any rate, that's at like 3 in the morning in February. Now you get into October, it's like right at sunset. So that's if you want to get the Milky Way, in the spring it arcs to the east, and then as it goes on, it goes straight up in October and then disappears. So you can imagine my availability to go out away from light pollution to be able to get the Milky Way, and subsequently a lot of night stuff aside from the planets, the moon, and the sun, was pretty limited. So if I get the chance to go somewhere, I'm definitely taking pictures. But I had to transition into something else. So I got into landscape photography and floral photography. Landscape has become probably my number one, just because of the ease and accessibility of it and not having to worry about light pollution. So somebody with my vision issues, walking through the woods, walking in rocky spots, crouching down by rivers, and all the things that you would naturally think that if you took your peripheral vision away and your night vision away, what is this guy doing? Why is he out there risking life and limb? Well, that's what brings me to this next point. Inspiration. Like that 14-year-old young little kid that didn't want RP to define him, the 52-year-old, now 58, still doesn't want RP to define him. And my thought is that if I can do it, anybody can do it. If you have vision issues, if you have physical limitations, if you have any kind of I digress, I don't like to say the word handicap, but something that limits your what would consider normal, and you're looking for something, an itch that you can't scratch, something to inspire you, something that, be it a hobby, maybe it could turn into a career, maybe whatever. But the thing of it is, you think possibly because of your limitations, you're hesitant to take that step. I'm a perfect example of somebody that decided to take that step. Now, my photography skills are, if you want to get technical, are probably what they consider amateur hobbyist. I did not go to school for photography. I am not an expert. I know enough to be able to create what a lot of people seem to think. This isn't my opinion. I don't like to judge anything. I do it for the love of me. I do it for the love because I love doing it. And it's a passion. So through that guy back there, I'm hoping to inspire others to take that step. It doesn't have to be photography. We could take that step and that journey and walk that path as a community and as a group and share ideas on how to stay safe, share ideas on how to maybe do something a little bit different than what an able-bodied person without any limitations can do, and still get it done to where you're satisfied and you're happy, and it takes you to a place of pleasure and satisfaction. So for me, I can't think of the right word off the top of my head. It got into my soul. And it's like you're that little kid at Christmas time and you're waiting and waiting and waiting. And you open up that present, this is exactly what you wanted. That feeling of joy. That is the inspirational part that I want to share with all those who are interested. I'm not going to twist anybody's arm. I'm not going to tell anybody they can't. I'm not going to tell anybody they shouldn't. I'm not going to tell anybody how they should find their passion. But once you find it, I'm going to encourage you to find those ways to make it work for you. For me, there's things I have to do to make sure that I don't fall on my head, get hurt, walk into a tree, trip over something, break all my camera. I mean, if you think about it, normal vision people probably do the same thing because they take it for granted. Because I don't have normal vision, I don't take anything for granted. Well, that doesn't mean I haven't screwed up. I've got some battle scars. But it doesn't stop me. And that's my point. You can't let it define you. So, my technical skills aren't going to get you a degree. There are many, many photographers out there that have fantastic YouTube channels and Facebook pages and web pages and what have you. But they're all geared towards sighted, normal vision people. Too many of them out there that are set up that they approach and explore what it would be like not to be able to see normal. Now, not only that, I have a little bit of color blindness I just found out about, which I guess is a side effect. But what I can do is if you've never touched a DSLR and you want to go from zero to taking a photo, getting the right composition for you, making sure that the light is correct, making sure it's exposed correctly, and possibly send it off to a lab, have it printed out, and actually put it up on your wall, that I can help with. I don't know all the tricks. I'm not a professional photographer. Matter of fact, I just sold my first 5 prints this week. I also have the city I live in reached out to me and wants to use some of my fall photos for their communications department. For me, that's jackpot. I never dreamed that it would ever get that far. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how interested all of you are going to be. But I want the opportunity to walk that path and see where it goes. I'd like to be able to have people come in here and ask questions, come up with topics, come up with solutions that I may not know about, that they've experienced, different tricks, different ideas, and build a community of camaraderie that can grow and build a place for people to come and explore their passions, even though the rest of the world may not be geared towards that. So, that's the inspiration part and part of the mission. The other part of this, I just want to let on the photography end, before I get off of that, is that you don't need a ton of money to do this. Now, you can use your phone, you can use the little point and shoots and what have you, and they'll get you some great stuff to put on the internet. But let me digress back up a little bit. The cameras on phones are getting really good. I'm not going to say that at some point you're going to be able to take a picture out of your camera and be able to blow it up into a 48 by whatever print if you want to go that big. Cameras are great for showing off on social media. Cameras are great for putting stuff on your computer. Phone cameras aren't that great for prints. Now, depending on how pixelated or grainy you want your prints, maybe you're okay with that. But a DSLR is the best way to get there. And like I said, you don't need a lot of money. That is a Canon Rebel EOS T3i. I bought it in 2011. You can get that camera used for somewhere between $150 and $250 maybe. You don't need the $2,000 body. You don't need the $1,000 lens and tripod and all the happy gear. All my gear combined. I did this before I started this. I just went out and looked. If I had to replace everything I got, the exact same thing, might be $2,300. And that was accumulated over a long period of time. It wasn't like I went out and just bought all this stuff. Now, in 2017, when I got into it, I ran out and got that lens back there. Is a godsend. It is a Tamron 18mm to 400mm zoom. I do macro with it. I do landscape photography with it at 18mm. I can do some portraits at 135 or 80. I can do. I can zoom in on a bug on a flower and get fantastic detail. Is it a pro quality? No. It's not a prime lens. It's not, that's where you start getting into the real expensive stuff. But the thing about that is I don't have to switch lenses when I'm on vacation. I take one lens and I'm out zooming, getting every style of picture that I could possibly want. And I've gotten some fantastic photos with it. So if you're going to want to put your stuff in National Geographic, you're going to want to spend a little more money. But if you're looking for something to go from zero to putting something on your wall that you can admire, you don't need the big expensive stuff. Now, as you learn and grow, there may be some attributes that you want. Then you might want to upgrade. But that's down the road. But for me, in this channel, and for the people that come here, it's a beginner status, and that's where I can help you get started. If you get beyond my understanding of something, I can either find it for you or I can give you a link to go find out. But my goal is to get you to take that first step. Go out and try. The interesting thing about photography, I kept talking about peripheral, right? Peripheral. What is a lens? It's kind of the same thing. You're looking through like binoculars. So I want to try and show to all of you what it looks like when I'm taking pictures. You'll notice my icon is a picture of the fall, and you'll see that I vignetted in the outside and it shows the inside of the camera. That's kind of the idea. I've kicked around some other ideas that I'll get to later on, but for now, the other aspect to the mission of doing this is there's a great charity out there called Foundation Fighting Blindness. This is not a sales pitch. This is not a pressure pitch. This is not anything. This is something I want to do. This is something that I want to give back. They are on the cutting edge of technology and research for all retinal diseases. Macular degeneration, Stargardt's disease, RP, yada, yada, yada. And through the funding, they came up with the Argus, the first bionic eyes that you can wear to be able to see. Now, it's not like what we see. It's grainy and it's not in color, but they are getting way better at it with every new out, just like with computers. Each time they roll another one out, it gets better. There's gene therapies, there's pill therapies, there's all kinds of different things that they do. All funded through, all the funding comes through Foundation Fighting Blindness. Now, wherever this goes, if it's 10 cents or $10 or $10,000 over my lifetime, 10% of whatever this thing generates through my photography, photo sales, through anything from YouTube or any kind of social media, then whatever transpires from this, 10% will be donated to Foundation Fighting Blindness. And I will have a link attached to this video for you to go check it out if you so desire, if you want to, if you think that's something you want to do. I would thank you in advance, and I appreciate your contribution if that's what you feel like you want to do. No pressure, that's not what this is about. This is all about inspiration. The other part is a byproduct of that inspiration. So with that, I've gone long. I'm sorry I've taken so long, but I wanted to give you guys a good idea of what I want to try to do here and try to build here. And with your help and input with ideas and whatever else you can contribute is welcome. And once I get my web page finished, my Facebook page is almost ready, my Instagram page is out there, and I get stuff loaded on there along with this, then it's full steam ahead, and we'll see where it goes. But as that stuff comes up, I'll let you know. In the meantime, I don't know if I'm going to do this once a week, once a month. You know, that can progress as things snowball, if they snowball, and we'll see where it goes. But until then, until I see you again, take care, everybody, and we'll see you on the next update.